Welcome to our 93rd podcast. Today we're reviewing other people's 2026 trends to see how they compare with our predictions. What trends did others find that we missed? Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our show. As always, we're so glad to have you with us. I'm Rich Cruz, an organizational development consultant, and I'm joined by my co-host and co-author and co-everything else, Ben Kleinman. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, Rich. Hey, everyone.
All right, Ben. So we've covered our 19. Oh my gosh, what year are we in? Our 2025.
What century are we in?
I know, right?
What millennium are we in?
Oh man, I just went back
Wow.
to Back to the Future. So we talked about our 2025 predictions, right?
Yeah.
And then how well those have panned out. We talked about some of
Yeah.
our 2026 predictions.
Yeah.
But then you were like, let's look at what other people say about all this.
Yeah. Well, I figured it's a nice opportunity to just see kind of where we thought things were going, and where now look at where other people are seeing where things might go, and see what we've kind of found in common, and what things other people are finding that might be a little bit different, and all of that. So
Sure.
I thought that might be fun.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
let's dig in.
Cool. Well, I think one of the things that we can all agree on is that change, as the old saying goes, the more things change, the more they stay the same. Or change is the one thing that keeps that'll keep not changing, right? So, as I stumble over my words, the idea that change is a continuous core organizational competency and not just like a one and done episode, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I've been seeing that in a lot of different posts.
Yeah.
That this idea of change being a kind of more project-based, start, finish, and you're done with it, has been kind of moved aside, and to this idea that change should be or needs to be a more ongoing organizational competency, and it needs to be something that organizations look at as evergreen in that sense.
Sure.
And not just episodic kind of stuff. And so what to me is interesting there is that you're still going to have very discrete change projects. You're going to implement a new system, or you're going to change an organizational structure, or you're going to revise some processes. And those are almost by definition very episodic things. But maybe it's the idea that organizations are going to be able to do that much better, much easier, with less friction, because they're more used to change in general, and they're just better at change. So I'm wondering if there's this difference between change as a capability that companies get very good at versus the idea that change is now permanent and ongoing. Like, I can't imagine that you would ever have a IT installation that lasted forever.
Sure.
I don't see that.
It's not going to happen, right?
Chief information officers surviving that.
Yeah, and that's interesting, Ben, because what technology does not go through iterative stages? Like, literally, if you're in a development environment, right? You're typically doing something like Agile, where you're constantly making updates, and in my career, right, I've built a couple hundred websites, right? And those websites need to be updated every time there's a new security issue that comes up with whatever
Yeah.
platform you're at, right? So
And since you're still in the 1900s, don't forget Y2K.
there's
You
that
better
too.
install those Y2K updates.
Yeah, yeah. Party like it's 1999. And oh man, I don't know. I think I have Stranger Things on my mind or something like that. But I to come up with that. But yeah, I mean, if you are adopting a technology, if you think that that is going to be like, okay, it's installed and it's done,
Right. Right.
that like when I was in the association space, right, it was everybody hates their association management system, right, AMS. So after 3 years, and that's why they lock you into a 3-year contract. After 3 years, somebody assesses, should we really stick with this, or do we have to move to someplace else? And usually the answer is, "Ooh, we should go. The grass is greener. Let's go over there." And then you
Okay.
find,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, find out that's not really all
Yeah.
that needs work, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but that does create, and I think a lot of you know, um, the other consulting companies out there, BCG, Deloitte, I think Gartner here says, people are getting fatigued by transformation, right? They're this always on change is affecting people for sure.
Right. Change fatigue is very much a real thing. And I think this
Yeah,
idea that you're going to make change an ongoing thing and somehow ignore change fatigue, I don't see those two positions aligning.
right.
And so maybe that's where this idea of change capability becoming a stronger part of an organization's DNA versus change actuation. And you still have things that you're doing that are changes you're making, and somehow you've trained your people to just be better at doing those.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep.
But you still have to understand that you can't overload people. There's still going to be change, even if you get good at something. There's still going to be change fatigue.
Sure.
It's just going to be maybe at a different level.
Right. And there, I think, one of the things that organizations can't do though is anticipate that and time things out and plan
Right.
for that type of thing.
Right.
Right.
And there's been some really nice work around balancing this portfolio of change activities. And so some things you probably, like you were saying, you're coming to the end of a 3-year contract. You can plan for the evaluation. Do we stay with it? Do we jettison and go to a competitor? That kind of thing.
Right.
There's going to be these types of portfolio views. And so you can try to stagger big changes, or you can try to mix hard, big, thorny changes with easier changes. You know,
Hmm.
something that's able to help people balance that. But it's hard to plan everything. I mean, life comes at you, and the market changes, and political situations change, regulations change, and some of that you can
Absolutely.
see coming, some of that you can't. And so you can adopt a portfolio view. You can train your people to be good at being nimble, let's say, or having the resilience, which we've talked a lot about, to be able to be adaptable and to flex very easily.
Right.
But you're still going to have to then balance out how much change are you actually doing at any given time.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll
And
still only have the same number of hours in the day. That hasn't changed.
that likely
And
likely won't. I don't know, man. They say the Earth is twisting in some weird way. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get an extra hour or
is that right? I thought you were
oh,
going to
I
say the
don't know.
Earth is getting flatter.
I'm not going there. No way. All right.
Hmm.
Well, let's do this, man, because I think it's about time for a break. But I think when we come back, we
Yeah.
can't have a discussion about change and all these predictions without talking about AI. So
Yep.
let's do that.
All right.
We'll be right back. Meet Hermie the HR Hermit Crab. Laugh, learn, and lead better with Hermie. Hermie is here to tackle workplace madness with heart and humor from Harmonious Workplaces. He's perfect for HR pros, leaders, and change makers. Hermie teaches workplace lessons through cartoons and is great for team discussions and workshops. Get your copy on Amazon now. www.hermiehrhermitcrab.com. Again, that's hermiehrhermitcrab.com. And we're back. All right, Ben. So we're talking about the predictions of other people, organizations, experts out there, right? And again, we can't have a discussion about 2026 without the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and I am really curious kind of what other people's predictions you were looking at and how you saw that playing into predictions or trends, things like that. I think one of the things that I've been seeing has been how it's changed how people manage change, but I don't think it's how do we say this? I don't think it's I don't think it's changed change, if that makes sense.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let me try to unpack that a little bit. It's
Please.
a because you're just what the heck is he talking?
I'm not just nodding my head and smiling, but I no, you're right. You're right.
It's another episode of Little Benny Jump the Shark. So what I see in the best situations is that AI makes change the practice of change management easier. It gives change practitioners more ways to do sensing. It gives change practitioners more ways to segment their targets. It gives change practitioners lots of ways to help with preparing communications or help with aligning stakeholders or preparing leaders, things like that.
Right.
I don't think it's changed the fact that change is still it's something that is hard for people to go through. It
Sure.
maybe just makes it easier for change practitioners to try to think about things and plan things.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you're seeing?
Well, some of the things from again, I think it was a little bit from McKinsey. There's some stuff from Accenture that, and what they're really talking about was kind of rehumanizing change to some extent using artificial intelligence, right? And part of that comes from, I think, the philosophy of Microsoft's introduction to Copilot, which is really, using AI as a copilot, like a coworker or a
Mhm. Mhm.
assistant for people in the workplace. Now, it doesn't um, substitute for our real relationships in the organization. It does not, or it shouldn't. Some people make those things their friend, a little too much sometimes. But the um, the fact that you can use it to help you think through challenges on both an organizational and a personal basis. Using it as that co-pilot is something that has been coming up more and more. Finding alternative paths based on patterns for to mitigate risk.
Mhm.
Again, on an individual and organizational basis, right?
Mhm.
I'm personally struggling with blah blah blah. What are some options that I have to get through this? Those types of things
Mhm.
um, can be used, and then so and the artificial intelligence is allowing us to create our content faster, learning content. You
Yeah.
know, knowledge
Yeah.
bases, those types of things, right? But one of the things that I find it remarkably handy for is again that pattern recognition. It's not always it's not always 100%.
No, not at
For,
all.
for instance, I was using it. was it Friday? I think it was Friday. And there was some hiccup. I don't know what happened, but I put in something about this digital transformation project that I'm working on for a small firm, and it gave me back recipes. I
Were
was
the
like,
cookies any good?
I think it was a gumbo recipe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. So you have to go and don't take what gets spit out at you as the
Mhm.
truth. I mean, you have to enter in with human
Right.
um, intervention, right? So,
Yeah.
but beyond the generative AI, right? There's some of the agentic stuff, the agent based, where it's trained on a specific body of knowledge or cross trained over some different bodies of knowledge, so you can get answers faster, or even some of the ones that are more on calculations and analysis, right? I think
Mhm.
I think those are going to help us, and it seems like that those are the trends we're going to see accelerate our ability to manage change and communications and stakeholder analysis and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, some of the agentic stuff, in terms of being very task-based and just you sort of wind it up and let it go, and it manages a lot of things for you, or it just handles a lot of things for you.
Right.
But you're right. The idea that I'm seeing a lot with AI in a conceptual way is that people recognize AI as a giant leap of technology, but there's this lack of judgment that seems like humans still maintain a much greater capability than any of the AI tools that are out there.
Right.
That humans have this ability to apply judgment in a way that the tools don't, and so I think that seems to be one of the one of the trends
Hmm.
in seeing for 2026 is that human judgment matters even more, and so you can, like you're saying, get simple responses from prompts, and a human might recognize that gumbo is very tasty but has nothing to do with an org transformation project.
Right.
Or you can use human judgment to set up AI agents, but you have to keep some tabs on them to make sure that they're not buying you 40,000 rolls of paper towels when
Hmm.
you don't need that, when really you just wanted an answer to a specific task, or you wanted a task completed that had nothing to do with buying 40,000 rolls of paper towels.
Sure. Right.
It's things like that that
And it's going to be interesting to see if legislation goes through, or however it's supposed to happen, this act of on a federal level of regulating artificial intelligence, particularly in selection, but in other ways too. I don't personally know enough about that, but on the legal side and how that's going to be rolled out, I don't think anybody really does. But there are people who have their finger on the pulse more. But I think that's something that all of the news outlets and some of these consulting firms are saying we need to be on the lookout for, because it's coming soon if it gets approved. Right?
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think one of the maybe more actionable things I've seen for AI where it can be quite helpful is this idea of, since you're going back to the 90s, do you remember those books where you could choose your own ending?
Choose your own adventure books.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love
And so
those
I feel
things.
like AI has this great ability to allow people to learn in the way that's most helpful for their learning style. And so you can kind of um, think of a learning management system that is much more flexible and much more adaptable and much more tailored to you as an individual and your learning styles than just reading a document and saying you've read it, or
Right.
watching a video and taking a short quiz to say that you've understood it. There are ways to use the artificial intelligence tools to make it much more um, tailored to how you learn, and hopefully that gives you better learning outcomes.
Yeah, actually, that's great. I've used and I continue to use like Notebook LM from which is a Google product where you
Hmm.
can put in um, bespoke sources, right? Either your own content or like I've even taken
Yeah.
content from ChatGPT and Gemini, but also textbooks and stuff like that, and put that in there, and it allows you to not only get a synopsis and have a chat about it, but it'll give you a podcast style audio, a small video synopsis, a mind map, and
Wow.
infographic, right? So, I mean, depending on what you want to do, and you can give it prompts to try to do that, but it
Yeah.
it does help with understanding things better because you, like you said, you can adjust it to adapt your learning style.
That's great.
Good
That's
stuff,
great. Yeah, and I love it because it's just very actionable and practical.
right? Well, one of the things that all of this artificial intelligence has shown us, though, is going back to the capabilities. Right? Is that there seems to be some continued gaps in our capability to lead and manage others.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
seems to
Yeah.
be, a trend that we can see from other people. So, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we could talk about leadership and management.
Sounds good.
Cool. We'll be right back.
In a world where leadership needs clarity and action, and HR gets left out of the loop, one hermit crab steps in to save the day, only to be shut down by management. From the creators of Hermie the HR Hermit Crab and the Harmonious Workplaces podcast comes a new shell-shocking adventure, Out of the Loop into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry. This book blends workplace satire with evidence-based lessons, reminding leaders that culture, trust, and people strategy don't exist as extras. They form the foundation of lasting success. Whether you work as an HR professional, a leader, or just someone who has survived a few too many staff meetings, Hermes stories will make you laugh, think, and maybe even change the way you see your workplace. Purchase Hermie the HR Hermit Crab, Out of the Loop, Into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry, now available on Amazon and Ingram Spark. Shop now at harmoniousworkplaces.com/HermieHRCrab. That's harmoniousworkplaces.com/HermieHRCrab.
Huh, they changed your friend.
And we're back. Okay, Ben, here we are, the last stretch of, well, this will be our first released podcast of 2026, but the last one we're recording for this year.
Hmm.
And we're
Hmm.
talking about the trends that other people are reporting. And before we went to the break, we said, leadership and management capability. That is something that that other people have reported we have gaps in, right?
Yeah, yeah, and it opens up a huge can of worms in terms of leadership, setting the direction, setting the tone, and trying to sense trends, sense where the market's going, and keep the vision of the company alive, and management trying to keep things going while also trying to move the direction in whatever new directions the leadership wants to go, and
Mhm.
employees are part and parcel of that whole thing, are critical to that whole thing, and you have these workplaces that are shifting faster than anyone can imagine in terms of not just the workforce, but what the workforce wants and what the workforce is willing to accept, and just all of these changes. So,
Yep.
how we unpack that in the next 8 minutes or
Like,
so,
right. I know. That's a lot.
no idea.
Seriously, we really should and in 2026, who knows, we may have future guests that can, talk about stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
keep watching and or listening to us, because we do have things planned for the upcoming year. But yeah, leadership, leading others, getting companies to do the things that need to happen, um, and become innovative and set themselves apart from other organizations, and then management making organizations more effective and efficient. We have issues with both of these, right?
Right.
And they're I think one of the things that I'm getting from some recent books that I've read and is that there's so many organizations get those two confused and put both of them in the same bucket, and you have to have all of this. But um, what's happening is that middle managers are reporting over and over again. We've seen this in some of the mid-year reports, like
Yeah.
the Gallup poll, right?
Right.
That,
And
that
we've talked
they're
about
very
that in
vulnerable.
prior episodes, how
Right.
middle managers are just feeling overly stressed and overly worked. And
Right. Yeah, because they're not necessarily developed for dealing with ambiguity on how to facilitate people,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
processes, right? They're not equipped for coaching, but we've talked about, like, as part of training, right? After the knowledge portion of it is given, and there's a from Kirkpatrick's model, right, where there's a positive reaction or some reaction to training, and then there's the knowledge component of it and testing that. But that performance part of it, right, that coaching aspect is there. But if managers don't have they're not equipped to do it, or they are unmotivated to do it, how is that going to work in maintaining that to lead to the last part, which is performance, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it speaks to a slightly different role of a manager in terms of, not just making sure that things are being done correctly within certain parameters and on time and on budget and all that, but
Right.
turning into more of these player coaches, if you will, or helping people along in a more personal way, helping people connect the dots between what their job is and the value that the company brings or the company mission or things like that.
Yeah.
It's a different role, and I don't know that but I don't know, but I don't know that a lot of companies are helping managers, training them in that way, giving them the skills that they need to have those kinds of conversations and whatnot.
Sure. Sure. I don't know about you, but I have seen, this is more anecdotal than research, right? But I have seen uh more, how do I put this, like smaller boutique firms put together leadership um packages, right? Like offerings.
Hmm.
And I know a few people who are doing very well with that, right? And the idea is that it's different than management, right? It's not to make it more efficient, more effective. It is really like leading through change and the innovative part of it. Have you seen this trend, and do you think that that is going to be something that's going to go in the future, or are we looking at something that is a little more, taking it from a flatter organization and trying to make it I guess, a little more rigid with management over leadership, if that makes sense?
Hmm. I I guess I'd have two thoughts about that. First, with especially with AI and the capabilities that AI seems to be providing, I'm seeing a little bit more interest and speed in pushing decisions down even further and to where people closest to the work, closest to the customer, um, can have more decision making authority and do things faster.
Sure.
So in that sense, I think the leadership structure and the accountability structure are maybe becoming a little flatter in
Okay.
that sense. But to your other question, I'm seeing a lot of smaller consultancies come up. I see a lot of people who are leaving the corporate world either by choice or not by choice and are deciding to start up their own consultancy firm or join another partner and put together some kind of offering. And so I think you're seeing a lot of people with a lot of skills, and they could be industry specific skills, they could be industry agnostic, but just coming into this idea of offering a very specific service. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of new providers, new vendors enter the market, and some of that is very specific towards coaching, leadership enablement,
Right.
leadership training, and I see more of that focused on the leadership tier. I think everyone seems to like going after the C-suite, the brass ring, that kind of thing,
Right.
as opposed to the management tier. That just seems like the market for where those people maybe 20 years ago they were all internal, and now you're seeing a lot more of them as external.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah,
see a lot of that too, and
that makes sense.
imagine at some point there'll be another shakeup and things will change.
That's right. So I think we're almost at time here, Ben, today.
Hmm.
So we talked about change needs to become more of an embedded capability, right?
Yeah, I think
And
that first one we were talking about
yeah,
was very much along the lines of change. People seeing change as this continuous capability, and I think where I'm struggling a little bit is that you will always have episodic change. It's
right.
just you're trying to get your people to be so adept at it that they don't recognize it as an episodic change,
Hmm.
which to me is very different from change being constant.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the sort of perpetual IT installation comes to mind,
Right.
and that I don't think we're going to see that,
Hmm. Hmm.
but I do see a lot of people talking about from a trend perspective, and then also with clients that I work with, people talking about how they want their organizations to be better at
At
dealing with
adapting,
change,
right? Yeah.
at adapting, at becoming more resilient.
Sure.
And there's that focus on maybe resilient organizations, adaptable organizations. How do we get our people to be able to be better at that? And so a
Hmm.
lot of that embeds things that we've talked about before in terms of trust and psychological safety, and um, tying to corporate values and scenarios and things like that, as opposed to rigid outcomes.
Right. Right. And some of the things that we've put together, even on our website, right, are knowledge continuity and institutional, tacit knowledge
Hmm. Hmm.
capture and turning that into training.
Yeah,
Um, are
yeah.
the
We had a
knowledge
whole article
performance trait
published in TD Magazine
in
about that.
TD Magazine, exactly right. Some of that are things that we're definitely trying to keep uh, in mind, right? We're the struggles
Yeah.
that our organizations are having, and then
Mm.
the other part so the second thing that we talked about from trends from other people was AI and how it is creating this, kind of, um, it's going to be our co-pilot, right? For and kind of trying to some extent rehumanizing change, but it's not going to, how do I put this? Resolve all the fears. You know, it's not going to create that psychological safety, though. That's the human part of what we have to do as we work with
Right,
our
right, and
robots.
s specifically to AI, I think you're seeing a wonderful technology tool, but a tool that doesn't have the judgment that humans have,
Right.
and so the need for not just humans in the loop when evaluating a prompt or managing a army of agents,
Yeah.
but judgment in terms of how AI is applied, when it's applied, how people should be pairing with AI or using AI, that kind of thing. I think that will continue for quite a while. This idea of human judgment being far superior compared to AI judgment.
Yeah. And again, if you go into on our website, look at some of the past episodes that we have, but we do leverage artificial intelligence in what we do, right? So
oh, sure, yeah, everyone should be looking at it as an enabler,
right, for sure.
Yeah. And I think that leads nicely into the third thing we were talking about in terms of, I feel like AI as a technology leap has just exacerbated some of the things that we were just talking about in terms of our third thing that we're seeing a lot of people talk about, this gap in leadership and management skills and capabilities, and a kind of maybe ability to meet the moment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's
I think
great.
AI has sort of AI has really just pushed that visibility of that gap to the fore.
Yeah.
Where,
I like what you
yeah.
said there, Ben, that ability to meet the moment. I mean, that is really the adaptable part of it, right? Because that's exactly it. And we're always, organizations are always trying to, I mean, people are always trying to get to that that lower tier of our needs, right? From Maslow's hierarchy, right? We're looking for stability, right? Beyond the health that keeps us going, right? We're looking for some sense of homeostasis, stability, and our ability to be able to adapt. We can, if we're not there, because we're probably never going to actually hit that, right? But we can see it, and that may help to bring us where we need to be.
Yeah, that's true. So much more to unpack there. I think one of the other things that I keep seeing is this idea of the idea of leadership trying to make it all about employees and the year of the employee and whatnot. And I feel like I'm going to double down. And I know we talked about this before, but I'm going to double down. It's never going to be the year of the employee. I think maybe 2026 will be the year of the coworker.
Okay,
but
I like that.
Yeah, that
the
I
year
think
of the coworker. You heard it here first, folks. I like it. Cool. All right, Ben. Well, let's welcome 2026 with our first send off. And you want to do this today?
No, it's all you.
It's all me. All right. Well, folks, thanks a million for joining us for our first podcast released for the 2026 year. But as always, continue to make change your friend.
Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network, and remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode. To contact Rich or Cheryl, please visit www.workbalanceconsulting.com. To connect with Ben, find him on LinkedIn or visit at www.harborsidestrategy.com.